All right, welcome to the KissFAQ Podcast. I figure it's always fun to give people the right to response. And since you take the time to comment on a lot of our videos, I just want to recap some of those comments that jump out for the past week. So let's jump back in time to the prospect of new Kiss music and some of the responses that video generated after it was published. What day was that? That came out on May the 8th, so check that out on the channel if you haven't yet. Andrew, always excited for new Kiss music, looking forward to it. Cool. Joseph Kiss Sr., I'm here for it. I'll take whatever they are willing to give at this point, and hopefully it's something I'll enjoy. Absolutely. I think we all hope for something that we'll enjoy rather than something that we don't like. Chad, I'm excited for new music. I wasn't a massive fan of Monster, but I was still happy to hear new Kiss music, and Samurai Sun was exciting, but it was okay, not great. I'm sure this will be really good from the standpoint of what the Avatar show will be. Yeah, that's a great attitude, Chad. I mean, Monster, I know, is divisive. I enjoyed most of it, and again, it was a high point for them ending their recording career at that point. So again, it was new music. I know some people don't like it. I have issues with the mix, and that's a technical complaint. Nothing about the actual songs themselves. A lot of great stories around those songs. So good attitude. Brandon, thank you. You comment on a lot of stuff, so your comments are appreciated. Please, 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 new material. What more can you say? That's a fan. FWBL, yeah, okay. You get the point. I'm sure Gene and Paul can still write good songs. Gene can still sing, and as for Paul, Sonic Boom and Monster, my biggest issues were Paul's voice. Yeah, it's an elephant in the room. Paul's voice has changed. Paul's voice has potentially been damaged. We don't know the deal with it, but again, as Paul would say, if you want to hear me sound like I did in 1975, go listen to Alive. Getting back to that comment, though, looking at Kiss catalog, Paul gave us a lot of amazing songs, and he set the high bar. There are AI tools, but I don't want those. It's fake. If Paul can't pull it off on his own, then leave it and stick to the catalog. We'd love to hear new music, but not AI vocals and tricks. I don't care about the avatars, but probably I'm in the minority. That's a really good comment. That's a really good paragraph. There's a lot there that I think do raise potential issues. AI tools, yeah, they have a place, but they are fake. But it depends how they're applied, because at the end of the day, it's only programming, it's logic. So that is no real difference than, say, an amp modeler, depending on how they're utilized. And we can get into a whole philosophical debate about how much is too much and where it stops being a plug-in or a valid tool and becomes fake. But it's all about, well, as I often say, context and amount, the utilization of it. So that's a really cool comment. That one is actually worthy of a podcast episode with people who are smarter than me talking about the technical side of things. Chuck, well, Chuck's always in the comments as well, so I'm always looking forward to new Kiss music. However, I certainly have my doubts whether it will be good. I'm not sure 70-year-old men can write good Kiss songs. History would tell us the odds of a good album are not good, but I hope for the best. You know what, Chuck? That's a really good comment as well. Again, I don't think a person's motivations for writing songs have a sell-by date. I don't think there's any age at which you can no longer write a good song. Rolling Stones are still out there. Now, people are always going to debate whether those songs are any good, and I think we all go back to albums like Let It Bleed, or Sticky Fingers, or, Pick Your Poison when it comes to that band. But at least there's still, hopefully, creativity. Paul, I have sung his praises for his Soul Station compositions. While the execution may be slightly lacking because of the technical challenges around his voice, I did say I would love to hear these sung by an up-and-coming artist so that they could be fully realized for how damn good they were. And I still say that. So I think there's a lot of young R&B talents that could really do justice to Paul's songs, and I don't think there's any problem with Paul's songwriting whatsoever. Gene has a deep well of material he can always revisit. So, Tommy, again, Tommy, I think, has valid input to be able to give, particularly Gene, in crafting his material. Paul, I think, needs it slightly less. But again, if you look at the credits on Sonic Boom and Monster, I don't think there was a deliberate sense of generosity or socialism being done to give credits out. All right, Stargazer Max. Well, I'm not a fan of anything they've done since 1998, so I have extremely low expectations. Add to that Paul's ever-deteriorating voice. Will they avoid digital trickery? Fair, 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 fair. Absolutely fair. Let's wait and see. Well, wait and hear, since we're going to judge with our ears and not with our eyes, hopefully. Chris Flood, again, a regular commenter live on the show and in the episodes. Gene will just rewrite vault stuff and Paul will do some crap ballad count on it. Maybe. I don't know. I got tired of second guessing these guys because Kiss is a band that never fails to surprise. And I know we sometimes say never fails to miss an opportunity. This is a great opportunity, actually. So let's wait and see what they have to say. User XF, I'm not even going to try. Nice WMMS, I think that is a badge from 78. For me personally, I'm not a fan of anything on Monster. Hopefully they get a real producer for their songs. Yeah, a real producer. Well, Paul Stanley is a real producer. Go back to Asylum, how fantastic that album sounds. Go back to Animalize and what he did there. So I don't think the problem is on necessarily the producer, but I think having a neutral party, much as Michael James Jackson initially was, that middle ground between Gene and Paul's egos. It's good to have someone with a different ear to come in and say, what about this? It's benefited bands. Rush, the tail end of their recording career, brought in a new producer, who gave them a new viewpoint into their sound at that stage of their career. Rolling Stones, again, an example I love using, continue to work with, kind of more current producers to get that newer sound. It depends what they're going for. And it also depends on, who's paying the bills. There may be pop house implications in this new music, since, as I've pontificated already, that there is more than likely a tie-in with the Avatars. That's the whole purpose. It may be contractual. There may be language in there that said that you have to work with so-and-so. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. So, interesting point. And then JJ, they should have done a new album 10 years ago. I don't really care anymore. The Avatars are lame, in my opinion. Just concentrate on the super deluxe box sets. They are what the real fans want. Hear, hear. More deluxe box sets. Sex. That's a good Freudian slip there. I will take more box sets any day of the week. I'll take more off the soundboards. I'll take looking at new avenues of, single CD releases, single LPs, record store day stuff. There's a whole, my ideas around that area are just, as much as anyone else's wish list. I do still care. Kiss didn't end. They ended the road. I don't care about the Avatars at this point. There's just not enough to grasp onto there that is public. I know some of the influencers got to see some more in private presentations, but they've honored their NDA. So out here in the peanut gallery, there's not enough to care about with the Avatars. I never liked comic books either, for that matter. So I'm really not into it. I've never cared about Ronnie James' Dio hologram. None of that shit matters to me. I've got Kiss Alive. I've got 3 nights of Detroit Kobo from 76 to watch. I don't need to keep living a new story when the old story is still delivering so much joy to me and I'm still diving into it. So again, there's no right or wrong answer around that. That's real, real individual. All right, that was the first video, The Prospect of New Music. Next video up is the podcast episode from Saturday, Vegas or Bust, we ended up calling this one, because we didn't know, we're not going to title our videos until after we've done them, because we go off script sometimes. All right, first up is Max Stargazer. Sorry I couldn't join live. Yeah, you were missed. We always like your comments during the live episodes. You always have good input, and it helps the show, as does everyone else who comments on these episodes. Again, you help make these shows fun. But as he continues, he listened to it afterwards. Interesting enough, those Vegas prices, insane. Again, the 6,000 was the top tier one, which gets you all of the below. Go check out the prices for yourself. But you can get it for under 2,000 per person for a cheaper package. So again, a little bit rich for my blood, and if I'm not getting a sound check, I'm not going. I'm not going to Vegas anyway. But Jordan, another regular commenter. Good to see you in the comments. My last show was in 2019 with my brother. The best part of the show was the memory with my brother. I agree with many of your viewpoints. I know I'd enjoy the Vegas experience, but I'm good. I want the last memory being at a makeup show with my little brother. What more can you say? That's a mic drop. Then we were talking about the Stanley Simmons live videos, and Bjorn again chimes in, give Nick a cowbell. We need more cowbell. Yeah. Go watch that Saturday Night Live skit with Christopher Walken, Will Ferrell, I think it was. Ken laughing at that comment coming up about Lonnie buying the ashtray. Ha ha ha, priceless. PDC123. Dakota, SS, Stanley Simmons is Wicked Lester 2.0. Their music is all over the place. I find that even that Evan has zero musical direction. Through his career, he's just been all over the place, seeing if anything sticks. With that said, I did enjoy this collaboration with the Sons. That's a very objectively balanced comment. So, yeah, their stuff is all over the place so far. Evan has been all over the place. Going back to Jupiter Crush, I think, was one of his teenage bands that put out some stuff on one of the sound platform that someone drew my attention to through the blues. He's very trained as a musician, and I think through his father, he's been exposed to a great deal of different music. So it is kind of tough. And in today's musical market, it's probably very difficult to try and find something where you can succeed. And I think that's where, coming from a privileged background also comes into play. And I don't want to project or even think that I know anything about Evan, because I don't. But when you're not worrying about where your next meal is coming from, when your heater's broke and you're so tired and you're eating hand sandwiches, at the Vagabond Inn, he's not starving. The other guys were, his father, really did pay dues. Evan and Nick have paid a different sort of dues. They pay a tougher due in some sense because they have fathers and parent lineage. So we'll have to wait and see what they can do. I do wish them success because, again, music is a big part of my life, whether I like it or not. I wouldn't wish anyone failure. That's just not in my nature. Jason Leonard, good to see you, Jason. Great episode, lots of interesting topics. I strongly agree with Mark. Yeah, we all do. No, just kidding, Mark. ABBA aren't comparable songwriters to Kiss. ABBA songs are boring, zero grit and edge, all for music. It's subjective. It's a very taste-oriented thing. I grew up with ABBA around me, so I don't agree with that, Jason. Again, as a European, ABBA were a big part of that 1970s soundtrack with very catchy songs. Kiss always tried to write catchy songs. So they're very similar in that sense. They just went about it with a different palette. They're painting with different brushes. And their audiences were different. But look at some live footage of ABBA at their height, and you'll see there are a lot of similarities. Chuck again. Hey, Chuck. Things Kiss fans are saying about Kiss playing live in 2026. It might not be that bad. Paul's voice sounded decent. They might play the same shit, but at least they're out there doing it. Well, it might be pre-recorded, but it's better than nothing. Even a bad Kiss show is okay. I don't expect them to sound like they did when they were 65. They're nearly 80 years old, and most people are dead before they reach 80. Yeah, true. Be happy that they're out there. If you don't like what you're hearing, at least you've been able to preview the menu on YouTube and maybe just stick to that. I generally would probably do that, after those shows that I saw on the end of the road. Dakota again, Monster is a fantastic record. I still love it. I still constantly listen to it. Why? I don't listen with my eyes. Go listen to your ABBA songs. Starting at the 3-minute mark, the complaining begins. No, the complaining doesn't begin. This is a podcast. It's a conversation. A conversation has ebbs and flows, positives and negatives. It's just part of the conversation. You're not going to like everything that you hear in life, and if you think that it's complaining or whinging, then I'd say that the issue is you. Not us. We sing the praises where they're due. We sing positives. We sing negatives. We're not going to ignore things that we don't like. It's just a nature of it. And again, Monster, I'm glad that Monster exists. Would I have done things differently? I think it got ruined in mastering. Again, we've talked about that. It's been analyzed. That is not a good sounding record, and it could be better. Even with Paul's vocal limitations, and there are some very good songs on that. I've never, ever said that I don't think that Long Way Down is one of the greatest compositions that Paul Stanley's been a part of. It's an absolutely fantastic song. I just wish it sounded as we once knew Paul Stanley sounded like. That one got a few replies. Yeah, nothing further on that one. Then there was one other video this week, I believe, and that was the Songs Not On Alive, a Song of the Moment episode. This was one that I did for members only, and I'm just slowly dribbling that out. There was several songs performed live in 1975 that didn't make the Alive album, ones that we have decent enough copies of in order to make an episode. So user XF9We6 9P, did I get that all? Great, thank you so much. I really enjoyed listening to those songs. Yeah, so there were 3 songs featured in that. Let Me Know from Cleveland, Room Service from Fremd, and Ladies in Waiting from Largo. Not breaking any new ground with any of these, but Daniel Bowden notes, those boxes were a blessing, a huge smile across my face when I heard a 2-timer from Detroit. That is either the Dress to Kill or Alive boxes, which had all of the Alive shows, or most of them anyway, excluding half of Cleveland, where we actually got to hear a lot of that stuff properly for the first time. So I think that episode I recorded before those came out, so that's why he's making those comments. Great topic. Joseph Kiss Sr., thank you. Way cool guitar playing. Rex Metzer, another regular in the comments. Thank you, Rex. Colin, also. Nice topic. Rodrigo, yeah. So I've commented back to his on the analysis of all the Alive source materials, and I think that would be a fun exploration. So yeah, so those were 3 of the episodes that came out on the FAQ channel this week. We've already got something queued up for Tuesday, and we'll see what we do with a show on Saturday potentially. But I'm going through all that old member stuff and slowly getting that back out there to the public. As copyright ding dings ding. So thank you for chiming in with comments, whether it's during our live episodes, whether it's after the fact. We do read them. It's always fun to see what fellow fans think about the topics that we discuss or some of the monologues that I put out there. So thank you again for your support. We'll see you on the next episode or whatever it is.